afraid that truth doesn't have to be shepherded in by the ushers of superstition, fear, delusion, altar claws. Oh, I'm going too far there. Chalices, incense, smoke, Latin hymns. Truth doesn't have to come in this way. It's not absolutely necessary that we garland truth with a tremendous amount of verbiage, because that is the only thing that happened to truth, is it became garlanded with a tremendous amount of verbiage, don't you think? And a person who drags in this poor, shattered, tattered damsel called truth, you know, and thinks to get her on the stage at all, you have to pile her up with fur boughs and pack sacks and hula costumes. So it isn't necessary. It isn't necessary. All you have to do is show people the possibility that truth exists, and then ask them whether or not this item is true. And if they find that this item is true, then they will recognize truth. People do recognize truth when they see it. But another little factor enters in. Sometimes you only get the synthetic personality to look. And if only the synthetic personality is looking, its primary characteristic is that it can't confront truth. These are the barriers we face in clearing people. These are the barriers. They are not very formidable. Numbers of people are not very formidable. But tremendous piles of lies, fears, and terrors can become rather formidable, since I point out to you that man has not walked through these barriers for the last many thousands of years, if ever, in this universe. So we must consider these things to be quite formidable. I think it's his fear alone of these things which keeps him from being able to be happy. Now, is it possible that man is happy? If we look over any of the great seekers after truth, they were all driven in the direction of search by the unhappiness of man. They looked around and saw that man was not happy. They found out that a sick man was sick. He hurt, and he didn't want to hurt. They looked around and saw that people were starving when they didn't want to starve. And they were faced with this terrible puzzle. Why is it man has all these evil things if he doesn't want them? And of course, in the Philadelphia lectures, I covered this many years ago. That which you want in this universe, you don't get. And that which you don't want, you of course can have rather easily. One of the little rules that goes along, and you would be surprised where this rule enters in. I found out where it entered in the other day, just why that was. To most people, affinity is a consideration of distance. Oh boy, that's a deep one, isn't it? Think it over. In other words, if you like something and something is compatible and you think it's fine, you want it out there. Well, if you don't want it at all, where do you put it? Well, obviously only one place you could put it would be right there. So the basic law of affinity is responsible for this condition in this universe. Man does not want to be unhappy. He does not want to be sick. And just why he is not logical. Man is not doing or being, really, in the aggregate, the things he wants to do or be. He's doing or being things that he must not or has to be. He's being prevented from being himself one way or the other. And all of these shadow barriers are, to him, much more formidable, much more solid than anything else. I swear, some girl's idea of the evilness of marriage is much more solid to her than that wall. And a girl who has this idea of the terrific evilness of marriage, she must never get married, I'm having to do with marriage, all down the line. And you start start running her on 8C. She can walk through 8C. She can reach over and touch the wall. Why can she touch the wall, sweetie? Well, it's not there. And she could practically walk right straight through the wall. But this idea that marriage is something one must never commit, boy, that's solid. Interesting, isn't it? How people make the solids of their own universe the barriers of their own imprisonment. No, man has a right. Man definitely has a right to a certain happiness. He isn't going to experience that right under the circumstances of his own past. He can't. He can't. He's too wound up in this and that. It's not the mores of the society that prevent him. It's all of these delusions about how bad the other fellow is. You have police because other people are so bad. I investigated police one time. I became a cop. That's the best way to investigate something. Become it for a while, you know. You can go too far with that sort of thing. But where do we have, in essence here, a cave-in of the society? What could cave the society in? Well, all you'd have to do is have the police force and society start caving in. Why? The police force constitute a constant reminder that men are evil, which is a constant reminder that we must agree with these evil men. Do you see how this would work? Neat little trick. Now that doesn't say that we're so starry-eyed as to believe that this time we can dispense with all police. Or could we? Now you have to make up your mind which way you're going to go with the society if you're thinking about a new society of one kind or another. And if you say, well, this society would be totally unregulated, then we would be proposing an anarchy. And all the anarchists tell us that the only way a society would work as a total freedom without government would be if everyone in it were perfect. Well, I don't know whether we propose, when we talk about a cleared society, whether we propose or not to have an anarchy. That's beside the point. That's up to the people who get cleared. But I don't think you'd wind up with an anarchy. I think you'd wind up with a much finer level of agreement and cooperation, because I think you'd then be able to realize the rest of the dynamics. The cops are there only because the rest of the dynamics aren't there. So if you put those back into the society, then you get a society. The idea of a police officer, of the state of being of the criminal, is one of the more interesting studies. You wouldn't believe this study unless you've gone down and been a cop for a while. You couldn't believe this. I've had hardened criminals walk into a horrible bar crammed into the back between two cockroach dens. You know, hardened criminals, cop killers, you know, and they come in, pat them on the back, have a drink, boys, just mind the peace. They would. A cop, see, I wasn't a cop, that was a fake. I looked like a cop and I was wearing a cop's uniform. A little difference there. Cops see a couple of these guys come in, and they'd say, evil beings. What are you people doing here? Next thing you know, the nightclub starts to whirl.